Hey, welcome to World Wrenching. Have you ever gone to start your car and it's just nothing? Most likely you got a bad starter solenoid, so I'm going to show you how to diagnose that and possibly a quick fix for that. So as you can see here on the Cobra, our starter solenoid is kind of buried down here. You can't really see that, but that's what is causing our car to not start. So this is what a starter solenoid looks like. You have two ends. Your first end is going to come from your battery, and it's going to clamp here. The second end is going to go to the starter. So this style is set up on like the older Fords and things like that. Starters today actually have the solenoid attached to the starter. And then if you see it, you have these two posts here. We have the I post and the S post. The S post is going to go to your ignition switch. So that's that part where you turn the key on, but then you turn it to the cranking side. When that wire feeds power on the cranking side, that goes to this post here. The I part goes to the coil. On the Cobra, I don't have the I part hooked up because I'm using an ignition box and everything like that. The ground, it actually mounts back here, so this back plate is your ground. The Cobra uses a fiberglass body, so it's not going to body ground. So I actually have a jumper wire going from this backing plate to a piece of the block, so that is my ground. So a quick hack to test your starter solenoid is to actually hit it with a hammer. A lot of people are going to tell you not to do that. I've always done it, it works for me, especially when it gets cold outside. Like I had the Cobra, wasn't able to start, it was like 40 degrees or something like that. So I just took this hammer here and I hit the top of the starter solenoid, kind of freed up the windings inside of the solenoid, and that freed it and it started right up. So that's a quick, easy way to test it first. If that doesn't work, then we want to jump to the multimeter. All right, so now I'm going to show you kind of what we would do on the car. With the Cobra, the starter solenoid is very buried in under the wiring and everything. So I want to show you a clear shot of what you would do with your solenoid if it was on the car. So the first thing you would do is you would make sure that your ignition's off and then find that cable that runs to the starter. On the Cobra, it's this one on the left. So I would unhook this cable right here and I would just set it to the side. And then what I would do is I would turn my multimeter to the ohms, which is kind of that horseshoe looking one. And then take one of your leads and hook it to that S terminal, which is this one right here, and then connect it to starter cable there. And if the multimeter reads OAL, that means that your starter is faulty. The same thing, we're going to leave the cable off, and then we're going to take our lead and hook it to the S, which is that starting circuit, and then we're going to touch it to the ground. We obviously have nothing because we don't have any power going through the system, but that would just be how you would test that. Again, if it reads OAL, that means your solenoid has gone bad. And because most of them are all one piece today, you'd have to replace both. On the Cobra with the Ford 429, it is a separate unit. And like I said, when I was working on the Cobra and it was super cold out, the Cobra was just giving me 100%, nothing, no value, no clicks, nothing happening. So what I did is I took a hammer and I just hammered on the top of that solenoid. Not hard, I just kind of give it a couple good taps, and then next thing you know, the Cobra started right up and I haven't had any issues since. So that's a quick way to easily fix that. If it were to keep happening, then we would need to replace the starter solenoid, and it's really easy to replace the solenoid compared to replacing the entire starter. So if I was going to replace the whole solenoid, and again, I'm showing you this outside of the car just so that way it's easy for you to see what's going on. On the Cobra, we have the starting circuit. We're not using the coil, but just imagine this wire is going to the coil if we're on a regular car. And then I would have my battery and I would have my starter. And then I have my ground back here. It's pretty simple. We just unhook battery, unhook starter. On the battery, you might have other cables attached to it, so accessory cables, things like that. It's just like running a 12-volt lead because the Cobra has its main battery in the back. The only battery, or the only wire I have going to the battery in the back is the alternator wire. Once we've unhooked the battery, the starter, the ignition switch, that should be the only wire on that one. Your coil wire, only wire. We have no more wires attached to that. Undo this, which is your ground, and then simply just put it right back where the new one was. These are $25 at AutoZone. Hook up your main battery wire, and I would do this while the battery is unplugged. Hook this back up, hook your starter back up, your coil wire, and then your ignition wire, and then it's mounted via ground. If it's mounted to fiberglass, then I would run that jumper wire from your base plate through your block or something like that. And that is the quick rundown on how to replace the starter solenoid.